In the middle of the 19th century, China was in turmoil. The once great Qing dynasty was weakening. Rebellions and natural disasters were common. The Taiping Rebellion, a massive civil war, lasted from 1850 to 1864 and caused widespread death and destruction. Millions of people were displaced from their homes and desperate for a way to survive. For many, leaving China seemed like the only option. The discovery of gold in California and Australia had created a global demand for cheap labor. This demand extended to the Caribbean, where sugar plantations needed workers after the abolition of slavery. Chinese laborers desperate for work and a new life became a source of this labor. They signed contracts known as indentures to work for a set period, usually 5 to 7 years, in exchange for passage to the Caribbean. These indentured laborers were not slaves, but their lives were often filled with hardship. They were promised a small wage, food and shelter, but these promises were not always kept. Many Chinese saw indentured servitude as a temporary hardship, a way to escape the turmoil in China and potentially build a better future for themselves and their families back home. Between 1853 and 1879, over 14,000 Chinese indentured laborers arrived in the Caribbean. Most of these laborers came from the southern coastal provinces of Guangdong and Fujian. The majority of the ships carrying these hopeful individuals set sail from the port of Macau, a Portuguese colony at the time. The Caribbean islands of Cuba, British Guiana, now Guyana, and Trinidad received the largest numbers of Chinese indentured laborers. Cuba alone received over 125,000 Chinese workers. These islands, with their warm climates and fertile land, were ideal for growing sugarcane. The arrival of the Chinese laborers was significant. They filled a crucial labor gap in the Caribbean sugar industry following the abolition of slavery. Their presence would forever change the cultural and social fabric of these islands. The journey from China to the Caribbean was long and perilous. It could take anywhere from 3 to 4 months, crammed aboard overcrowded ships. The conditions on these ships were deplorable. Disease was rampant due to poor sanitation, limited food, and cramped living quarters. Many perished during the journey. Those who survived the voyage arrived in the Caribbean, weak and often ill. The trauma of the journey left an indelible mark on the survivors. They had traded the hardships of their homeland for a perilous voyage and an uncertain future in a new land. Despite the hardships, they arrived with a glimmer of hope for a better life. They carried with them the dreams of a brighter future for themselves and their families.
The journey was beyond anything I could have imagined. We were packed like sardines, and the stench was unbearable. Many of my fellow travelers fell ill, and some never made it. But we held on to hope, the hope that our suffering would lead to a better life.
Life on the plantations. Upon arrival, the Chinese laborers were assigned to work on sugar plantations. The work was grueling. They toiled under the hot Caribbean sun, cutting and processing sugarcane for long hours. Living conditions on the plantations were harsh. They lived in simple barracks, often overcrowded and lacking basic amenities. Many Chinese laborers found themselves in debt to their employers. Deductions for food, housing, and medical expenses were taken from their meager wages. This made it challenging to save money or send remittances back to their families in China. Despite the hardships, the Chinese laborers were resilient. They persevered, working tirelessly to fulfill their contracts and hoping for a better future. Building a new life. After completing their indenture contracts, many Chinese laborers chose to stay in the Caribbean. They faced discrimination and prejudice from the existing populations. They struggled to learn new languages and adapt to new customs. However, they persevered, building businesses, establishing communities, and integrating into the fabric of Caribbean society. They opened shops, restaurants, and laundries, catering to the needs of their communities and contributing to the local economies. They also maintained their cultural traditions, celebrating Chinese festivals, practicing their religions, and passing on their language and customs to their children. A lasting legacy. The Chinese indentured laborers left an undeniable mark on the Caribbean. They played a pivotal role in the development of the region's sugar industry. They brought with them their culture, their traditions, and their resilience. They enriched the Caribbean's cultural tapestry, contributing to its cuisine, language, and traditions.
Today, their descendants continue to thrive in the Caribbean, shaping the region's social, economic, and political landscape. The story of the Chinese indentured laborers is a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity and build a new life in a foreign land. Their legacy is a reminder of the Caribbean's rich and complex history, shaped by the contributions of people from all corners of the globe.